All right, welcome to another episode of Planting Seeds. I'm excited because I'm joined today by one of my partners in the Purpose Group family, which I'll talk about, Corey Davis. Corey, will you tell everybody who you are and what you do?
Yeah, my name is Corey Davis. I am the VP of People Operations here at Gerald Printing and Liberty Imaging. And that's HR, that's training, that's safety, that's everything to do with people.
Yep, that's right. So we've worked together for 2 years now. So I'll give the overview of what we're chatting about today. So I started Purpose Group in October of 2022. Purpose Group is a holding company, and our goal is to acquire businesses, hold them for the long term, and implement our Purpose Playbook, which is what we're talking about today, which really helps align a company or team around purpose. It's what I've done for the last 10 or 15 years in my businesses and written books about. And so part of the thesis for Purpose Group is to work with businesses that maybe don't typically do this type of work, at least to this degree. My background's been in technology and marketing, and it's a little more commonplace to dive deep into things like purpose. And so Purpose Group acquired Gerald Printing Liberty Imaging in May of 2023. I can't believe it's been 2 years.
Yeah.
That's insane. So what we're going to talk about is how that process has been going. The Purpose Playbook is 3 parts. We're going to focus on the middle part. The first part is building a trusting leadership team, which I worked with the leadership team there for the first 5 or 6 months to get us to a good place. All of this, the Purpose Playbook, it's all evergreen. It all continues to be something to operationalize and work on. So we're still working on trust within the leadership team, but I'd say it's in a much better place since we did that work. Now we've been focusing on PVTV, purpose, vision, tenets, and values. And Corey has been really leading the charge within Gerald, along with the other leadership team members, but he's really been the one to work to operationalize it as much as possible. So that's what we're going to discuss today. Sound good, Corey?
Sounds good to me.
Awesome. So I guess the first thing, tell everybody what Gerald does.
Yeah, so we're a commercial printer would be the generic thing, but we do print on paper, we do screen printing, embroidery, signs, and promotional products.
Yep. So, and how many people and where?
So we are about 67 people right now, across 6 offices, which stretch from Elizabethtown, Kentucky, down to White House, Tennessee. So we're in like the South Central Kentucky area. But our biggest offices and where I am is in Bowling Green, Kentucky. That's our corporate office. So.
Nice. Home of Western Kentucky University.
Absolutely. Go Tops.
Go Tops. Okay. Yeah, I was trying to remember. I've really, over the last 2 years, fell in love with the Kentucky area. It's really cool. And you guys have educated me on all the caves, the cave system underneath all your farms and homes. It's pretty nuts. Okay, let's get into the process of implementing purpose, vision, tenets, and values. So at a high level, the purpose of a company is why it exists. The vision is the company you want to become over the next 3 to 5 years. The tenets are how you're going to achieve that. And the values, we all know, are the behaviors you want to see in yourself and others. And so PVTV is sort of it's big and lofty in terms of your purpose, and then it's very tactical in terms of vision and tenets. And so I've found it to be a nice platform to help a team, know why it exists and march to the same beat. So I guess I'll just start by asking, how different, 2 years in and having really worked on PVTV, how different is the culture? And I should also say, I thought Gerald had a very solid culture when we bought the company. This isn't a fixer-upper type of initiative with Purpose Group. We're not trying to buy companies in distress. We're buying very stable, healthy companies, but then adding this layer. So, but how different is it, and what are sort of the biggest changes sort of in morale or the culture overall?
Yeah, I think, like I said, we have 6 offices. So in those 6 offices, we had very much a silo culture. You were just on your own, and really the successes that you were concerned about was the success of your own office. And that's been something that has really kind of come down. Now, our focus is being on one team, and we want to operate that way. We want to think that way, and we succeed or fail as a group. That's one of the big things that, especially in, like, you can see our leadership is buying into that notion now. That if your office does great, that's fantastic. But if somebody else is struggling, well, then we need to help them, and not just leave them on their own. And Gerald did have a good culture, but it was primarily one person's decision as to how things were going to be, and it wasn't like your input didn't matter, but nobody was asking for it too much unless they thought you could. And that's been one of the big changes, and I think that changes the morale overall, is when people are like, oh, I have a voice and I can use it, and somebody actually cares. When somebody's bringing things to leadership now, they're going to be heard, and we're either going to take action on it, or we're going to at least be able to sit down with that person and say, here's why we can't do that, or can't do that now. Mm-hmm. But that's great. That's a great idea. We appreciate you bringing those things to us. So that's kind of some of the big things. It's not individual down now. It's more a group atmosphere.
Yeah, I remember it almost, let's see, was it February, March or something of 2024 when we had the whole company come together to work on building out the PVTV, or was it January? Remember, it was around then, right?
Yeah, it must have been. It was kind of cold. So yeah, that sounds right.
Yeah. And, having acquired the company in May of 23, again, like I don't recommend any team or company go through this kind of work until there's more trust at the leadership level. And so we had to make some changes, and we really worked hard on that. And so I would say like 6 months later, we were ready to begin this process of building out the PVTV. And we brought the whole company together and spent a day together. And I remember part of the sentiment there was that people were saying that they'd never really come together as a group to work on the business. Certainly there have been like holiday parties and things like that, but it seemed like people were pretty receptive to the idea of like, oh, we have a voice now.
Yeah. I mean, that was a huge change. Like if we came together, like you said, it was to celebrate a holiday or a break we were about to have, and to maybe get a little speech on how the owner felt we were doing. But it wasn't to be like, hey, let's share ideas and let's come up with a common vision for our future. That wasn't the purpose.
Yeah. I mean, it was so clear just how much people wanted that. And that's been, that was refreshing for me, because part of the theory here is it's a theory. I don't know how this is going to work as we bring different companies into the portfolio. A lot of the work we do is, trying to help people figure out, what they want what impact they want to make on the business, and what impact they want the business to make on the community. And some people can, I don't know, think that's a little too touchy-feely. And I think there's always going to be some of that, but I felt like, I don't know, I felt there was an excitement, and I'm curious from you, like now we're, over a year later, how do you feel it's evolved from, all right, we walked out of that meeting and we sort of had this new thing to today?
Well, so I feel in a way that maybe the PVTV hasn't evolved, but the way that people think about PVTV has evolved. And that's been one of the big changes. So, it's a shift in mindset from lots of people, and some people don't. It's still a process. We're still trying to bring it along. It's a very unique situation, different, I'm sure, than anything you've dealt with before. But when you're talking about like that excitement of bringing people together, like when we did our values, that's something that was so, I think kind of surprised you in a way. Like when we were trying to define our values, and it was a runaway. It wasn't even close. We had plenty of options as to what are our values, and we had 4 that jumped out so far ahead of everything else that it wasn't even close. And so everybody here valued the same things, but to be able to say that and to see that everybody else was on the same page, like that was amazing.
Yeah, that was shocking to me. I've done this a dozen or more times, and I've never seen that before. And to have a company that works across, sometimes it's like a 2 hour or more drive between offices.
Oh, yeah.
So, having sort of 6 somewhat connected, but also somewhat independent cultures come together and suddenly finding out that, yeah, we sort of all do value the same thing. I thought that was really powerful.
Yeah, it really was. And I think that united us at that time. There was no argument. There was no fight. We all believe in the same things and want the same things from each other as coworkers and leadership.
Mm-hmm.
That was one of the big things, I think, is that people can it's not only, hey, these are leadership's expectations of you and what values we want you to bring to the table, but that they can expect those same values from our leadership.
Mm-hmm.
And if they don't display it, well, there's a problem there too. So, that same level of expectation is on everybody from bottom to top.
Yeah. That came through very clear. I felt like the purpose, although it took some time to get there, which it always does in these meetings, but the purpose is bringing visions to life, right?
Yes.
I thought that, like, once that clicked, I also felt like everybody could head nod and understand it. So will you explain what that means to the company?
Yeah. So, I mean, a lot of people that come to us, our customer base, they have an idea, and a lot of times it's very rough. It's very vague as to what they want to see. And it's across all different kinds of mediums. Like I said, it might be a sign. It might be some kind of mailer they're sending out. It could be apparel that they're going to wear every day. But they have some kind of rough idea of what they want to see. And we want to make that from just a rough concept in their mind into something that's alive, something that they can hold in their hand or wear or whatever it might be. And literally their vision has come to life. Like they can see that thing. It's very tangible. So I think that kind of differentiates us from something that's a little bit more vague. You know what I mean? Like there's some products and different kind of companies you could work with where I don't know if it's as cut and dry as it is with us. They want to see something and we have to come through on it.
Yeah, sort of literally cut and dry.
Yes.
And I'm wearing a product of your work right here.
Yes.
Which was, I don't know if it was cut, but it was certainly dried. Yeah. I think it was nice to see that that tangible way that everyone could feel the purpose. I guess I'm curious. So as you think about the 4 elements, you've got purpose, vision, tenets, and values. Which over time has been, or if any, have been like the hardest of those to continue to reinforce or bring to life, and which maybe has been the easiest?
So I think the easiest thing has been rallying people around our values. We together, usually most offices once a week, and we have a huddle. And I really quickly started seeing people start to, because we have acknowledgments. We acknowledge other team members who've done something above and beyond or whatever. And I started to see them very quickly start to use PVTV language. They were saying, you embody putting in the work, or you are dependable, you're trustworthy, whatever it might be. And they're actually they're using that language. So they, again, that had, we were all on the same page on that. So it was very easy for them to make that connection. And I started, I encouraged our leaders. I'm like, hey, if you'll start talking in PVTV language, you'll start thinking in it. And then the connection gets made everywhere. And that's what I see in our huddles. So that's been really easy because we agree what those values should be. The hardest part, I think, has been one of our tenets is meeting the financial expectations of our stakeholders. And I don't mean that that's difficult, that the expectations are so high that we can't do that. What I mean is that because we had 6 offices, there were different levels of expectation. A certain office wasn't necessarily expected to be as lean and as profitable and to kind of behave in the same ways as everybody else. And now we all have the same level of expectations and same goals, no matter what the size of your office is. And that's been difficult to kind of get everybody on board to, hey, this is not going to operate exactly the same as it has in the past. We're not necessarily meeting those expectations the way that we're doing things now. Maybe you need to change to be more like this other office that you've never even had interaction with. So that's, to me, that's been one of the more difficult things, just changing minds.
Yeah. I want to circle back in a second to, you mentioned the huddle, so I want to just talk about that. But before we get there, I think what's interesting about your last point is that, the third component of the Purpose Playbook, which I haven't spoken about yet, is the great game of business, which is a way to manage and run a company where you let everybody in the business understand how the business works, how we make money, how it all fits together, and then their place in that, so that they can understand, every day how they're helping us hit our financial goals. And then everyone's rewarded for it. So there's profit sharing involved. So I know that this year, so again, we do this in phases. We're not in any rush because, we intend to have Gerald as part of our portfolio for decades and decades. So we want to do this in the right timing. And so this year we're slowly rolling out elements of the great game. So I guess I say all that to say, once I think that's fully in place, I think that tenet of meeting the financial expectations of our shareholders and stakeholders, that'll be easier. So circling back though, talk about some of the ways that, again, I use the word operationalize, but like, how are you keeping PVTV alive, continuing to keep people going back to it? So you mentioned the huddle. Can you talk about what the huddles are, and then maybe anything else that you guys are doing?
Yeah, so the huddles are, like I said, usually a once weekly gathering of everybody at that office, and it's time to share information. To any kind of like updates, any kind of information that they need to know. It's a time for us to get together and maybe talk about how we're performing financially. It's a time to ask questions, to throw out ideas. We try to fold in like some kind of activity, just because the very end of ours is that we're going to do all these things while having fun. Mm-hmm. And we want people to have fun and to enjoy actually coming to work. And it's been a hit. People overwhelmingly, they like to have like something that kind of brings them together, a light moment to kind of start the day and to do something fun. So a lot of offices have really run with that. They pass it off and they say, next week is your week. You come up with the activity, or you lead the meeting, you lead the huddle, whatever it may be. So people are involved in things that they would have never been involved in before. It would have been, this is the person who handles all of that. So that's been a big part of it. And then we also spend time acknowledging one another in those huddles at the end, especially at the end, to just give an opportunity for people to give a shout out to their fellow team members that, whatever it is, they exemplify our values, how they help them, how they've helped our business or our clients. So that's been a big part of that.
Mm-hmm. And then you've worked with you said the leadership team, and sort of continuing to remind them, hey guys, the more you can speak in this language, the more you can find ways to bring PVTV to the forefront, the more that the team's going to hear that, and then they're going to echo those words.
That's right. And so like one of the examples that I was actually kind of proud of, and I know this isn't the most positive example, but when one of our VPs of one of our offices came to me and said, I have to let this person go. But the reason he said, this person doesn't exemplify any of our values. So it wasn't like a personality type conflict or something like that, or just a general complaint about the way they perform their role. It was bigger than that. It was something that actually had meaning, and that they did not exemplify our values, and that's somebody we need to move on from. And that's another thing that we're doing differently. So our interviewing process is collaborative now. It's not just one person trusting their gut. We have multiple people who are involved in the interview process, and we're looking to see if the candidate has our same values. Do they kind of look at the world the way that we do? And we have to be in agreement. Those people have to be in agreement that this is the kind of person they're not just going to come in and maybe physically do the job well, but they're going to fit into our culture and where we're trying to head. So that's also a way that this is really kind of changing the way that we do business. It's about more than just getting the job done at the end of the day. It's the whole culture and what we're trying to build.
Yeah. And another impact, last time we evaluated the employee turnover, it was a staggering drop. I think you had told me, and I had further researched, that the print industry can range from 40% to 25% of an annual employee turnover. Meaning if you have 100 employees, 40 of them might leave during the course of that year. And the idea of, putting in a process like the Purpose Playbook and really leaning into purpose and culture is, to have people be happier and to have them stay. And so can you talk about the impact it's had on that number?
Yeah. If you are looking for more, like if you're looking to see a cultural alignment before you hire somebody, chances are they're going to stay. Mm-hmm. We look at voluntary turnover, involuntary turnover, compared to voluntary. And, we're okay with the stepping away if it's because somebody doesn't align with the culture that we're trying to build. But the people that we want to stay, like, we're doing a pretty good job of keeping them around. But it is, like I said before, unlike maybe some of the other businesses that you've been involved in, this is a very different kind of thing because we have people that are, kind of in executive type roles, but it's actually a very small portion. And overwhelmingly, we have hourly production type staff. So it's just a very different animal, maybe you started writing the books and all those things. Has it felt different for you to be involved in something like this? Like this is not what you're used to, I don't think.
Yeah. It has been pretty different, and and I would say in good ways. It's much more rewarding. I think, to your point, there's a lot of people at our company, due to the nature of our business and everything involved in that are hourly, and we wish we could pay more. I think we pay competitively, but the industry overall, it's not a super high paying industry. And so without a culture that helps people see that the work they're doing is important and makes a difference, and without a culture that brings a team together so that you really feel like you're building something with other people, that can be pretty difficult. I think it can be even harder. Again, I go back to like technology and marketing, which is my background. And, those are pretty high paying jobs. And even if you don't have a program like the Purpose Playbook, you still probably have, ping pong tables and bean bags and, sort of high rise office space. So, the impact there in those companies, I still think it's important, but I just feel like, I don't know, there's just a realness and an honesty to the folks at Gerald that I think it's much more rewarding to do this work. So yeah, it's been different, but I think it's been really powerful so far working with the team.
Yeah, I feel like it's kind of because we have all those hourly employees, like we need to build the culture and to a point that somebody doesn't leave for 50 cents more an hour, like, or even $1 more. Like, yeah, what they have here is so valuable because the culture is there. They see that the leadership cares about them and is trying to build something for them. So, when you take a look at all of those things, is that extra dollar? You know what I mean? Like, how is $40 extra a week? Like, is that worth it? And we continue to find people saying, no, it's not. They want to stay here. And that's the kind of thing you have to do. And that's where you can actually make a difference. In an industry like this, where you do have a lot of hourly workers, if you build the culture and you make these things the way that they should be, and you are always trying to make improvements for the employees in every way that you can, then it makes it hard for people to leave, and you get to keep the people you want to keep. And we really value our people, and we like our team, and we want them to stay.
Yeah, and it's a wonderful team. I mean, I've really enjoyed getting to know everybody. On that note, though, I would almost argue the impact on leadership has been maybe just as impactful. I think, like, obviously we've gone through changes over time with the leadership team, but like, it seems like, giving giving that leadership team more of a sense of one team, instead of, hey, we're all 6 individuals or 8 individuals working on our own, bringing them together, continuing to build trust within that group. It seems like that's been a pretty powerful change as well.
Yeah, it really has. So like one of my favorite examples, because like when I think of the examples of how this has worked really well, I usually think of it from a personal, like from a people standpoint, I guess is what I should say.
Mm-hmm.
And one of our VPs, shout out Steve, he he's the kind of guy he's always been willing to do whatever it takes to come through for our customers. He will go out of his office and go out in the shop and run a machine if that's what it takes to come through. And nobody ever doubted that he had the knowledge and the skill and that he was willing to do whatever it took to get the job done. He's always been that kind of guy. But he's had this meteoric rise in the way that his team perceives him and his connection to them, and as well as his peers, his other VPs. Because he's gotten out of his comfort zone. And I think the PVTV atmosphere has changed and allowed for that. I don't think he ever had that opportunity before to challenge himself and say, I need to make human connections here. I need to be connected to my people that I work with day in and out. And he's doing it. He's putting in the work, not just to deliver a job, but to make the environment what it should be for everybody that works with him. And it's just, it's incredible just to watch that kind of progress in somebody he's not really comfortable with that. And he'll tell you that, like, I'm not that kind of person. He's a little bit more reserved or whatever, a little bit more of an introvert, but he's done it. And he's taken an office that's had some difficult times, and he's transformed it. And it's an incredible thing to watch.
Yeah, it's been amazing for me to just see how much he opened up in the meetings from the very beginning. He's a fairly quiet guy, but he speaks up a lot more now. Even just, I think he maybe feels even more comfortable. Yeah, no, I love that. And so thinking about the future, like, what are you most like? As we're May of this year, like from now through the end of the year, what's most interesting to you, or what are you looking forward
to? So our theme this year is go together, grow together. And we want to continue to, like, I want to see a day come where that mindset of we're individual offices and that's all I'm really worried about, that's gone. So we're attempting everything that we can. And like one of the things that we're doing, like from an operational standpoint right now, is we have one office that has capabilities that the others don't, to be able to, we have some machinery, we can do some things. Like, we're trying to show them that we're going to make this as easy on you as possible because we value you. We care that you're sending us jobs, and we don't want this to be difficult. We want everything to be, so it's just, that hasn't always been the case in the past. And now people are saying, hey, I want to show my appreciation for you. So that's how we work better together. That's how we go forward together and build on those things. So I think there's definitely an emphasis on operations, like how can we share the workload to come through for our customers and make it easy on everybody. So that's something that we're working on. And, culturally, we have some offices that have just really done an incredible job, and we want to maintain those. And there's some that just need some work. They probably need more work than others. So what I would love to see by the end of the year is that we've kind of raised that standard at those offices and kind of brought them along. But we've had some really well-sustained growth in our culture and the perceptions of our culture from our people, how much they value their own job and how satisfied they are with it and how well they think we're doing on our culture. So we know where we need to work. And I believe we have leaders that want to do the work. So that's really where I want to see us grow in both of those things.
Nice. I love it. I would also add before we get done here that you've been very successful. I think in using surveys to sort of gauge how this is going. Can you talk about that for a second?
Yeah. So we do a couple different kinds of surveys. We did a climate survey when we kind of first came under the Purpose Group banner to kind of see where our issues were. And then we've been trying to tackle those this whole time. And part of that was evaluating, which different departments had the least satisfaction in their jobs, and that seems to be coming up overall. We realized that maybe we need to change the way that we pay certain positions to bring them up to an industry standard. And then, we're also doing our surveys so that we do every quarter, we do an upward survey. So everybody in an office gets to evaluate the VP of that office. And we might even expand that to our operations managers in that office. So we're getting feedback there. And we'll also do peer review. So all of our VPs put in a evaluation of each other. And, that's hard because we're not in the same place every day. But we're looking at perceptions. We're looking at how we work together when we come together for like leadership team meetings and things like that. Who's bringing things to the table, and we're seeing rises across the board, both from the individual office level and amongst our leadership team. So that's been helpful. It's not a perfect process. Like, I'm constantly learning and trying to tweak these to make these as best we can. But one of the things that we did when we started building these kinds of surveys is that they are PVTV driven. We want to ask if this person has the same values. Are they doing, like some of our tenets, like building an efficient operating environment and developing a strong fulfilled team? Are they working towards those goals? Because that's part of our PVTV. Like, we need to know that person is working on those things. And that's what we're seeing. So it's not generic in any way anymore. We try to make it broad enough that people can evaluate it. But the thing that drives it and the thing that we're looking for is, how does this person's behavior tie into our PVTV? Does it model what we're looking for? I think we keep seeing that we're doing a better job all the time. It's really encouraging.
Yeah, it's been amazing to watch and new things I've never even thought of. It's been fun for me to see that. And then I've noticed that you rattled off some of the phrases from your PVTV. One of the components of this is that every leadership has to memorize word for word your PVTV. So can you talk about that process? Just because I know some people that's easier for and some it's more difficult. And then also, you guys have started expanding that to other people in the company. I've never even asked for that. So can you talk about how that?
Yeah. So everybody, we just set a deadline, and everybody who's on the leadership team had to have it memorized. And like you said, some people are better at that than others, but everybody did by the deadline. We don't have any problems with that. And every time that we come together as the leadership team, that's how we begin, is by somebody recites that. So it's, for us, it's never really going to go away. Same thing, we recite it in our huddles on the individual office level, and usually looking for volunteers. And it may be some of the same people get asked a lot, but we had one of our mini games that's kind of associated with a great game of business was focused on our huddles. Like, we wanted people to be more engaged. We wanted them to be looking for how their fellow team members lift them up and make their jobs easier and better, so that we get more acknowledgments. But part of that was we wanted 50% of the staff at every office to have the PVTV memorized. And we had multiple offices where the entire office memorized it. And I think the final numbers were probably more like, even the offices where you didn't have 100% who knew it, you had probably 70%. So that makes it mean more. I mean, if only leadership really knows it and they start talking and it's like, what are you talking about? Like, you put a sign up somewhere or something like that, it doesn't mean as much as somebody who spent the time and committed it to memory, and tries to live it and sees that that's how we're making decisions. So that was really successful for us. I couldn't believe the participation that we had. It was actually our second biggest office had 100% of the people memorize it. So
I love it.
That was it was an easy way. We tied it to a reward, and look, everybody came through on it. So
Yeah, that's great. I mean, you know, the original idea of why to memorize is exactly in our conversation, how you've been able to say, you know, well, this and refer to a tenant or that and refer to a value and just to be able to roll it off the tip of your tongue, so that when you're having conversations with your team, for instance, you can reinforce those things. So that's been like just one of the many impressive things that you guys have done that I just am blown away by how you've embraced it and continue to evolve it.
Yeah, Roy Disney, I think, said when values are clear, decisions become easy, or some version of that. So, I mean, it's kind of the same thing. Like if everybody has that committed to it. So when we make decisions about where we're moving, how we're moving forward, things like that, well, it's not hard because does it add up to that PVTV that you have memorized?
Yeah, I love it. Okay, good. Well, I'm going to close on this. For anyone that has checked out my latest book, Dream Small, Corey did the art. Corey did the cover.
Jack of all trades, master of none.
It's great. You've got some posters in your office that as I was going through the designs for the cover, I'm like, I feel like he could nail this. And I just asked him, he did it.
Well, I appreciate the opportunity. It was pretty exciting to be like, look, there's a book you can buy on Amazon, and I designed the cover. That's, I don't know, that felt like a big accomplishment.
Cool. All right, Corey, listen, I appreciate everything. Thanks for jumping on. I know this isn't normal in your workday, but I just knew you'd have a lot of good things to say about how the company's progressing. There's other companies that are working on at different phases of this process, and so I think this will be really helpful. But I mostly want to thank you for being the PVTV champion at Gerald, which is really wears the hat about how to evolve it. I appreciate that.
Absolutely. Glad to do it.
Yeah, I hope to see you soon.
Sounds good.
Thanks, man.
See ya.